It is 7:01. I will be calling the meeting to order. This meeting is called as a special meeting. It's actually a presentation. We're still going to read the Sunshine Law, but we noticed it as a special meeting so that the entire governing body can be here and present. Michelle, will you please read the Sunshine Law?
This is a special community meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the public notice which has been posted on the bulletin boards, social media, filed with the Borough Clerk, and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger.
Thank you very much. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council President Good.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott. Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone could please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone could please remain standing for a moment of silence, dedication of their choosing. Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to allow a prospective developer an opportunity to present concept plans to the community for potential development of a marine property located at 165 West Front Street, currently and previously referred to as Peterson's Marina. Just to explain how this is going to go this evening, the developer will present, and then following that, council members will have a chance to ask questions of the developer, and then we'll be opening it up to the public. And each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak, depending on what time we're at that point. After we get through the public questions, we'll decide if we're going to open it back up for round two. Please know that no decisions are being made this evening, and no formal action is being taken. There will be another community meeting following this, once the developer has had a chance to hear feedback from this evening from both the governing body and the members of the public. So my suspicion would be that probably it depends on how much time they need, but we would have another community just like this. This is how we handled things for the 75 Manchester development, and it went very smoothly. Mr. Bauman is our redevelopment attorney, and I think he can vouch for that as well. And Miss London is also our borough attorney. So anyone that is on here this evening, the intention is if anyone does want to ask questions after the presentation, they will be allowed to do so at a 3 minute per person time limit. And again, we'll be able to open it back up if we're at a reasonable time afterwards. So with that said, thank you to our clerk, Michelle Clark, for working with the attorneys of the developer to be able to work out the logistics of having this presentation this evening. Thank you to the governing body for being amenable with your schedules. I know everyone juggles a lot of different assignments as governing body members between planning board, library, harbor, and many other things. But instead of elongating a regular council meeting, I think this is the best way to proceed. Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Alfieri and Michelle Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. And Michelle, thank you again for helping putting this together. I am going to be on for about 15 minutes for this meeting, and my son, who's also an attorney in our office, will finish the meeting because I have others to attend. But we have two witnesses, Mayor, that we'd like to present. Our architect, Conrad Roncati, who prepared the multi-page exhibit that was submitted to everyone in advance of tonight's meeting. And I believe Conrad can handle If Michelle turns the screen over to him, he can handle the exhibits. And then we also have Christine Cafone, our planner, who will also present testimony to this body. I'm not sure if you want to handle questions for each one when they finish or do everyone at the end. That's your call how you want to handle that. But having said that, if Conrad, I saw your name. Are you on?
Yes, I am.
Great. And Michelle, can you turn over the screen to Conrad?
Yes, I've made Conrad a co-host, so he should be able to share his screen.
Thank
Right, and I'm not sure, I don't remember how we handled the last presentation for the Manchester property. Did we swear these witnesses in, or this is just an informal presentation?
This one is an informal presentation. I will defer to Mr. Bauman or Ms. London if I need to be standing corrected on that.
Yeah, they don't need to swear in.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, Conrad. You're going to be calling up this exhibit, is that correct?
I'm trying to as we speak.
Okay. Michelle said she could do it if we get bogged down, I believe.
Okay, it just seems to be loading in. It's taking a little time. Sure, we'll get there.
And while we're waiting, Conrad, would you introduce yourself to everyone so they know who you are and what your involvement is with this project?
Absolutely. My name is Conrad Roncati. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey and 16 others. I've worked with this development group in the past, various projects, mostly in the state of New Jersey. My firm is located in Fort Lee, New Jersey, as well as New York City. We specialize in redevelopment projects, multifamily, and mixed-use projects. So this is the type of project that we certainly like to get involved with, and it's certainly one that we're very excited about being involved with. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have a what amounts to a 12-page presentation. I would like to run through it quickly. This was a master plan document that I created on behalf of my client. It is a document that conveys not only, I think, our understanding of the site, but also the intentions of my client with respect to this redevelopment of this, what we consider a very important property within Keyport. The screen should be showing you page 2 of my master plan document. Of course, everyone knows where Keyport is, but the drawing on the photo, aerial photo on the right, shows the property location. It's the marina located on West Front Street, just west of Fireman's Park and the post office, of course. The property is currently an active marina. You all probably know far more about the property than even I do at this point, but it is an active marina. It is also a commercial marina in the sense that there is a warehouse metal building at the core of the property, which does boat repairs and commercial operation. And then the large part of the property is used for boat storage, seasonally as well as off-season, of course. In the winter months, the property is quite full with boats. What we are proposing is a residential redevelopment of the property, but a residential redevelopment of the property where the marina remains intact. So the marina, as it's currently constituted, remains the same in operation. What we're going to be removing from the site is the commercial side of the marina operation. The commercial building, the boat storage, boat repair, that will be eliminated from the site in favor of a multifamily residential building. We are looking at the fourth sheet of my master plan. Of course, north is to the top of your page, and the Raritan Bay, the marina, if you can see my cursor, still remains at the north side of the property. The proposed building is located from the west side of the property and in a U shape extending into the eastern part of the property.
Excuse me, Mr. Ancati,
Yes.
is there a way you can maximize the PDF instead of us seeing, right now what we see is the whole app. Maybe if you hit to maximize the upper right hand.
Forgive me.
His next slide is going to have it, I believe.
I'm looking at one single sheet of my plan on the screen.
Okay, no worries. Yep.
Is everyone seeing multiple sheets?
We see multiple tabs.
I'm sorry,
We see multiple tabs.
multiple tabs.
Right. That's what
Okay, but you're seeing multiple sheets?
we can only see the one sheet that the tab is highlighted. That's all.
Okay.
What Councilman Fotopoulos was asking for, instead of just looking at the bay part, if you can zoom into the development part, or you could just go to the next slide, I think would cover that.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm closing every other PDF I have open. On my screen, I see one sheet. It's sheet 4. Is everyone seeing more than that?
Yes, but I think they see your full screen, not just that. So all the stuff on the right-hand side. So they're asking if you can view in. Am I correct, Councilman Fotopoulos?
Actually, if he hits the 2 squares in the upper right-hand corner, I think he might be able to put it into presentation mode. But it's, you know what, if we can't do it, let's not. It's no problem.
Yeah, I apologize for that because I would like you to see one drawing at a time.
Conrad,
You're seeing one drawing at a time. We're seeing the whole Adobe Acrobat application there. That's one. That looks good right there.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption. I'm just.
No, it's perfectly fine. There's always a complication with Zoom presentations.
Conrad, why don't you zoom in a little bit on the actual PDF right there? So
I'm zooming in about as large as I can get it on my screen.
That's great.
Okay. So the building that we designed is a U-shaped building. So there's a wing here on the west. There is a wing that generally runs parallel east and west along West Front Street, and then another wing on the east side of the property that extends a little bit farther east. We wanted to create a building that worked with the site, but also preserved the marina used separately and distinctly. We felt that by creating the U shape of the building, that we would be able to create a courtyard at the center that was more private. This is the entry courtyard, as well as where some of the recreational aspects would be. For example, a swimming pool here at the center. The marina is intended to operate separately and independently. In other words, you can pull in off of West Front Street, find a parking space, go to your boat, leave, and of course, return to your car. But we also anticipate that residents of this building will also afford themselves of the marina and not only live here, but also keep a boat in the marina. We're hoping that will happen. We've restricted and limited ingress and egress to the property on the east side from West Front Street. You'll notice that there's no other driveway around the corner and the curve of West Front Street. That's because of traffic concerns and safety. We wanted to aggregate our ingress and egress to one location and not create multiple points of ingress egress due to the curb and also the slope of the property. So we have one ingress egress point here all the way at the eastern point of the property. And then we have an egress point, which will, at the moment, only allow right-hand turns out into traffic. So all of our traffic maneuvers are safe. The next drawing is a little bit more descriptive about how the building is laid out. The blue represents all that is residential in terms of units in the east wing, the amenity spaces along west front, and then this brown shaded area is our parking structure. We opted so far to incorporate automated parking. Automated parking is where you pull into an entry bay, you then leave, and your car is automatically taken from the bay, automatically and robotically into the building. So you don't have to go with your car is delivered separately into a loading space. The reason for this is because automated parking requires 1/3 the volume, floor area, and height that a conventional garage does. What we did not want to create on this site would be a conventional approach to multifamily development, which would be a very, very large podium on which units would sit. And we wanted to create a building that didn't look like a parking garage with something on top of it. We wanted to make a building that was integrated into the site. And I'll show you that in a moment when I get to the rendering. So all of the parking in this project is located in a block on the east side of the building that then has residential units up above. This is the next floor of the building. Again, residential units in blue and the parking on the west side. And then the floor plans continue up. I'd just like to get to the rendering of the building because I'd like to explain how this all comes together geometrically, and then we can revert back to some of the project specifics. So again, this is a view of the site, clearly looking south to north. West Front Street is here at the bottom. The curve and change in grade in the road is depicted. The building is shaped in a U shape, again, a western block, a middle block that runs mostly east-west, and then an eastern wing that goes in a southwest northeasterly direction out into the marina parking area. You can see the two entry points along West Front Street. Again, traffic will enter and go to Marina Business. There's also a loading dock for the building here tucked in nicely. If you're a resident or a visitor to the residential building, you would turn in from West Front, go under the east wing and into the courtyard just beyond at the core of the building. Again, the building is organized in 3 major blocks. The western block is the tallest, and it has the parking in the structure below, the automated parking. All of the other wings are grounded with no parking underneath. The middle wing and then the eastern wing are all grounded without parking underneath. All of the roofs are green. The roofs are also activated, which means that it would be possible to access the roof on the eastern wing for recreation. So it would be a place to have a sun deck, barbecue grills, people sitting in the sun. But also important was the organization of the project, tallest on the west, cascading down to the middle block and lower again on the eastern wing. And the reason we did this was for 2 primary reasons. One was to afford each unit a view to the east and to the northeast. So looking at the bay far off onto New York City skyline, but also maximizing water views. The other thing it does is it creates a building that has 3 masses instead of 1 larger one. This isn't a large block of a building, again, with a podium at the bottom and some type of tall tower on it. It's scaled down. It's scaled in 3 separate and distinct pieces which we think creates a very pleasant mass and doesn't present itself as one building, but really three interconnected buildings. And it also gives us the ability to work with the slope of the property. So the property is lowest at the marina parking lot, and then it rises up towards West Front, and then up towards Broadway in a westerly direction. The grade gets higher and higher. So by using the grade of the property, we're able to step down each successive block, allow the units to look over the building, but then afford what we believe is a good public benefit of creating a building that's broken down in massing. Going back one slide, this was a summary of the building itself. So to talk about what's actually in this building, we have 184 total units. There are predominantly one bedrooms at the moment. We're planning on 85% one bedrooms. 70% of those would be ones. 15% of those would be one bedroom with dens. We're trying to accommodate, possibly more so in a post-COVID world, people that might work from home. So we're affording that extra den space. And then we have 29 out of 184 units, 15% of the units being 2 bedrooms. There currently is no plan for 3-bedroom units, and there are currently no plans for studios. Under RSIS mid-rise standard, we require 337 parking spaces. At the moment, we're proposing 385. So we have an abundance of parking spaces. We're certainly not looking for any waiver or exception from RSIS. And then separately, we have 88 parking spaces for the marina. And that generally breaks down to 1 parking space per slip. We do think there will be overlap. We do think that people that are living in this building will also keep boats here. So in a way, that would mean we're counting parking spaces twice. In other words, somebody that has a unit here and a boat will have the space in the residential building and therefore not need the space out at the marina. So we think we do have an abundance of parking here. Parking certainly will not be a problem. Aesthetically, we have not finalized the building in any way. We tried to introduce an architecture that reflected some of the history in the town, but also presented a modern feel. We thought that perhaps with the wide variety of architectural styles in town, really almost everything being represented in your downtown alone, from traditional to more modern styles, that this important property could start to create a new standard for aesthetics and a new standard for luxury living in Keyport. So we feel very confident at the moment that we have created a design that is both sensitive to its important waterfront site. It integrates with the waterfront site. It integrates the marina and that commercial aspect of the property while being complementary residential and commercial use. We feel that we've addressed the public's view of the building in terms of creating a building that does not consume the site with a giant parking podium, which would be a very traditional approach, and a building that's broken down in its mass and scale. And then lastly, I would like to point out that on the west side of the building, heading towards Broadway, we certainly understand that there are some commercial uses on that street, some houses that are predominantly rental units, and we have allowed for what amounts to a 60-foot buffer between the western wall of our building and the property lines of those properties, and nearly 80 feet of separation between our building and those existing buildings, understanding that we're proposing a building that does have multiple floors on the west side. And we're going to allow for fire and emergency access in that strip with controlled access. We thought that we could create a grass paver system so that if a fire engine, for example, fire apparatus would need to access the west side of the building for any reason, that there would be a path for them to do so, but it wasn't on a paved parking lot. So we're creating a green buffer to the west of the property. Lastly, in this rendering, you see a small building in the parking lot of the marina. That would act as a marina office so that there would be restroom facilities for users of the marina, as well as an office for the management of the marina. And one last thing, this brown line here that wraps the property introduces a public walkway access that would come over from the park, cross over at the edge of West Front Street, and then wrap around our property to the other side of the marina. So there would also be public walkway, public access to the waterfront as part of our master plan. I think I covered all of the major highlights. I certainly appreciate everyone's time and listening to my presentations. I tried not to dwell on any one thing and cover this plan quickly but comprehensively. I'm certainly open to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much. We'll definitely be opening it up for questions to the governing body, but I do want to comment a couple of things. Councilman Good and I had met with the site plan team last fall, and I do appreciate that you heard many of the concerns that were expressed and brought back a different plan. I was not part of the second meeting, so this is quite different than the first plan, and I do appreciate you guys scaling it down significantly. If we could just confirm, though, originally this was going to be a large apartment dwelling complex, but my understanding is now it's going to be condominiums. Is that correct?
I understand that that is definitely something that's being considered. Yes, I can't confirm that independently. Perhaps
Okay.
the project attorney can do that.
Mayor, what was the question?
Originally, when they first presented to Councilman Good and I last year, it was going to be a large apartment dwelling complex, and we expressed that that would not really fare well in Keyport, and we were looking for more of an ownership type of development. So my understanding is that this will be condo owned as opposed to apartments. Is that correct?
Mayor, this is Mike Tennyson, who's a developer.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Mayor. Thank you so much for having this hearing, and Conrad, thank you for your rendition. I can attest that is indeed the case. We will be building condos. We also have to have a caveat in case the economy crashes as it has done in 2008, but let's think positively. You know, we have to have a fallback, but our first point of call is condominiums.
Thank you for hearing that out. Also, you indicated for the parking spaces that there's an additional surface parking for 88 spaces. Now, will
Yes,
those
Mayor,
in the winter be used for winter storage for the boats?
No.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that you guys have thought about the details about if the entrance in is going to be off of West Front Street. Will a fire truck be able to get in at that left turn under that one level of the building?
Conrad,
Yeah,
that's
Go
so
all the way down to the marina?
So this will be a type 2 non-combustible construction due to its height. So this won't be a wood frame building. It will be fully fire suppressed. I'd be happy to meet with your fire official, Mayor. I believe that a fire apparatus would most likely fight a fire from the perimeter of the property. I don't think that a fire chief would want to bring a fire engine into the courtyard of this building, just that it puts $1 million piece of equipment probably in harm's way if there is a fire event. This building will be fully suppressed. Ambulances can certainly get under this driveway and into the building. There's plenty of height for that. And should your fire official want access by fire apparatus, we would certainly work to make sure that that happened. But respectfully, I submit that the perimeter is where a fire would be fought. But again, in type 2 construction, fully suppressed, 99% of fires are put out by the sprinkler heads and don't require, for example, a hook and ladder. So I think this will be one of the safer buildings in your community in that regard.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to turn it over to the redevelopment attorney and committee, which would be Mr. Baumann, Council President Good, and Councilwoman Pacheco, to see if they have any commentary or questions before we open it up to the rest of the governing body and then the public.
I don't have any questions. I was able to read this ahead of time, so nice presentation. I zoned out for a second. Did you share the height with the public?
Yes, so the height is 95 feet on the west side of the property, and it's 85 feet at West Front Street on the taller western block, and 95 feet on the northern side of that block, which is not a function of more stories, it's a function of the grade dropping as you move towards the water. Of course, the larger footprint of the building, the middle block and the eastern block, are much, much lower than that.
And then the setbacks from the street and the side and the homes on the structures on the, I guess, the west.
Right, so let me blow this up. Of course, it's not letting me blow it up. So sorry. It seems like screen sharing is not being friendly with me tonight. It's 60 plus feet from the western edge of the building to the properties on Broadway. Is this too small?
Not for me.
Going to see. So the distance here from the western edge of the building to the property line is about 60 feet. And then to the residential, some of the residential houses, it's another 15 or 20 feet. So we have this large, wide green buffer area. And again, we'd like to use this with grass pavers. So it would appear as grass, but it would be drivable by emergency vehicles if necessary. Okay. So the building is set back considerably from that western property line. I would also point out that this area is where the heaviest concentration of boat storage seasonally and over the winter is located. We're hoping that the renters of these properties understand that what we're replacing is a green landscape park of sorts, which used to be boat storage. So again, we realize that we're putting in a new building that's not there now, but we think on balance, it's a significant improvement for properties along Broadway.
How much of that facade, how tall is the garage component of that facade? In other words,
Garage, I have a section, see if this cooperates. So on sheet 10, this is a section through the building looking south to north, and it kind of flattens everything. But on the left side is the west side of the building. On the right, of course, is the east. And the height of the podium is 55 feet, 85 feet to the roof. And then you see all the way on the east side, the elevation is at 44 feet, but that's also starting 10 feet lower than the west side.
so I guess, is there a thought going to be given to how to make that 55 feet more attractive, or are there ways to
I
tackle it?
should correct myself, I'm sorry. The elevation begins 10 feet higher, so it's 45 feet and 75 feet on that side. That dotted line that's in the plan here is the actual existing grade.
Yeah.
So this is actually grade right now. 45 feet will be exposed, and then there's 3 stories of residential up above. And all of this here will be screened with evergreens.
But that's not an exposed garage, right? That's a concrete wall.
It will be a patterned wall, so we haven't finalized the design. I'm back at the rendering, but it is not an open garage. It's an enclosed
Right.
box, and we would provide some type of decorative facade here. We haven't finalized that yet, since we're in such early stage of this design. We would certainly like the community to be participatory, but this wouldn't have windows. It wouldn't be shining lights back at those residents. There are no headlights in cars. There's not even residential units with windows. So what those buildings are looking at would be a solid wall, and we're going to make it attractive in some way with some patterning on that wall.
And I guess, is it possible to have significant landscaping against the wall as well?
Yeah, so we were planning on planting all along the edge some large evergreens like green giants, things that would grow to 20, 30 feet. And in a few years, the vast majority of this wall would be green. And in front of it, a 60-foot green strip park. So again, replacing that, we're certainly aware we're putting a wall there. We're not trying to, hide the fact that there will be a substantial wall there, but we think that we can easily mitigate it and certainly improve the current condition.
And then, yeah, that little flag stick, is that access from Broadway for emergency purposes? Is that?
Yeah, so there is, let me go back to that again.
I'm looking at the slide with the colored slide.
So again, I'm only seeing one page at a time.
Yeah.
You're talking about this little leg?
Yeah.
So this is currently used as an ingress egress for the marina itself. The purpose of this is certainly less necessary than it was previously. And I think there could be discussions with the developer about what to do with this sliver of land. If you were to pull in a fire apparatus here, you're eventually going to be backing it out into West Front Street. You're certainly not going to translate through, turn and come through this area. So this, in effect, could become another pocket park, if you will, and be another green strip that benefits at least these 2 properties on East Broadway, north and south.
Could you talk about any improvements that are being made to the marina, if any, under the bulkhead? Or is that?
So I will attempt to do so. I've been in discussions with the current owners that improvements will be made to marina. Beyond that, I can't speak, but it's the full intention of this development group to improve that marina, increase its quality and activity. Yes.
If I may step in, Mr. Baumann. So it is our intent to replace all the existing docks with new docks. And then there is a break wall just outside of that. We're putting in a new break wall. So we will be completely redoing the marina to make sure that it has the same look and effect and same age as the building. So it's not going to basically be ugly alongside a new building.
Is there any resiliency issues that you have to address here? Do you have to raise the property, or is any of that's necessary? Yeah.
So we don't need to raise the property because the elevation of the property rises significantly from its northeast corner to its southwest corner. So we've carefully located
Your problem
the
in and of
building
itself, which
so that everything is above the floodplain. So we won't be seeking any consideration with respect to DEP, FEMA floodplain, or Army Corps. As a matter of fact, this curved line here that runs through the property and then of course into the parking lot to the east, this is the floodplain line. So we're specifically staying out of it, and nothing will need to be added to the property itself.
So I guess that east building does have residences on the first floor at grade, right? No, nowhere else.
It does, but we've actually elevated the ground floor on a low podium. So you can see here in this section, it's elevated 10 feet so that it's at grade when it gets back and connects. But where it's out at the edge, it's actually elevated 10 feet. And I think it's easy to see in the rendering. If you see these lines underneath, they're kind of shaped like a hull of a ship, if you will. And this is 10 feet from first residential floor to grade here. And it's only at grade units here, all the way back on the south side of the lot, which is at a much, much higher elevation, 10 feet higher.
Okay. That was all my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Good?
Mayor, just Conrad, if you can just talk, and I think, and I'm going to limit my questions because most of we have the discussion during our meetings, but can you discuss, I know you spoke with the property owners on Broadway. I believe that there has been a discussion, and then correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Mike has to remind me on this one, but there was something to do with the beach part on the northwest side of the property. I believe that that was going to be, yeah, right about where the little hand is.
Right.
You were going to do something with that?
If I may, Michael should answer this question, but I'm showing him my exhibit on the screen. This area here, north of the building and up against the water is a beachy sand area. This is our neighbor immediately to our west and northwest corner. Just for orientation, Michael, maybe you could.
Yeah, so let me step in. So, yeah, so we approached the people who own that property, and we have agreed that we will improve all the way to the end of their property, that beach line, and we will make it that it is one, if you will, one beach, and any improvements that are required on their bulkheads shall be done by us at the same time.
That's all I had. I just I wanted to have that pointed out, but all my questions were considered when we met. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Pacheco?
I am good at this moment. Mr. Bauman had asked my questions about the building height and the setbacks, and most of my other concerns were addressed in the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the other governing body members, and then we'll go to the public. And when we do go to the public, we'll be hearing from the members of the community that live within 2 blocks of this project first, just so that they know that their questions will be answered in a timely manner, because I know there's several waiting. So next I will go to Councilman Fotopoulos.
Thank you, Mayor. Full disclosure, last year, I was on the redevelopment committee and they came before us with this project and I had the opportunity to see it as well. We had discussed not cutting off one floor, but a couple, just to lower the height a little bit as 85 feet. And we didn't really have a height at that time, but now that we do, we were talking about developing, we were asking for sightline illustrations from the west side of Smith's Tavern and also the Broadway side, the southeast side of Broadway, just to get an idea of how high the frontage would be. In addition to that, just so I know you know this, but my understanding is the majority of the residents on both sides of Broadway over there are owner occupied. So just to point that out. But back to the height, I mean, was there ever consideration to lop off 2 floors instead of 1? I know that you came in with, you came in with a little more.
In our discussions, we felt that, you know, in order to make it, if you will, commercially equitable for all of us, that we had to get a certain density. We've taken consideration for the surrounding street, and we feel that whereby 85 feet, you know, sounds a lot, but it is from a lower elevation than the properties that are actually on Broadway. It starts at slightly lower elevation than that. We will, of course, submit to you block planning that shows you exactly how it looks or how it will look should it be passed against the existing properties. But, you know, we were challenged with the fact that this property is requires us to get a certain density in order for us to be able to afford to move forward.
Are we at the minimum density for you to be able to afford it?
Well, as you know, first of all, let me start by saying I think Keyport is a crown jewel, and that's why we're coming there. I think it is a fabulous town, and that's why we want to be here. All of that is timing of the market. I mean, we have to develop based upon the fact that we have a normal market, which is not a normal market today. As we all know, it's an overheated market, and I would expect that, you know, as soon as this horrible pandemic gets past us, that we will go back to more normal trading positions. So is that it at a minimum? I'd have to study that, and I'd have to go back to our brokers and understand what it is they're projecting. But it is pretty close to that. So I would hope that you would take that into consideration. And I don't think it's an overbearing structure. We did do the setbacks to create a very, nice, if you will, buffer between us and those properties. So I would like to leave it as it is until we do the block planning and be able to show you it in basically more condensed area.
That's fair. That's fair, Mr. Tennyson, and I appreciate that. I just, the height is just a concern in proximity to the residences on Broadway, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say as well. A elevation rendering would help a great deal, I think, to get an understanding of what we'd be looking at, from the ground level and from Broadway in and of itself. I think the design is very nice, and again, I'm looking forward to what the residents would have to say. Without getting too far into the weeds and everything, we would all utilities for a development this size would have to be extended and increased, not just probably proximal to the site, but also offsite as well as your development leads into our other infrastructure. Are you guys okay with that?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we understand that.
Okay. There'll be opportunity, I'm sure, for other questions at some point, but for now, those were the, one other question. The public access, does it stop on the north side of it? Does it stop right where the hand is now, or does it extend and go through the front and around?
So in the site-colored site plan, the brown path is the public walkway, and it ends here at the middle of the site. Well, not the middle of the site, but the back corner of the marina. And then this area here is just a sandy area beach that will be used by residents.
And that'll be a private resident beach?
Yes, here would be a private resident beach.
And understanding as well that half that beach doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the neighbor. So we can't, just arbitrarily say, off you go. We'd have to consult with that neighbor.
I appreciate that. And then finally, during our discussions, there was a point that we started talking about what would the impact be on the surrounding area with regards to foot traffic. Do you remember that discussion we had? If not, I'll remind you. We talked about, essentially with 184, at the highest point of, I guess, velocity, you could see upwards of 100 more people frequenting the downtown. Wasn't that what we discussed? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, I think so. Yep.
I mean, reasonably speaking, not very scientifically, but 100 people doesn't sound like a whole lot. Sounds like something really nice, actually. But when we look at something this size, the impact may not be as significant, but structurally is, really always my concern. And the residents of the borough, and especially those in immediate proximity to the building. I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Thanks, Mayor, for the opportunity to ask some questions.
Thank you. Delia did not make it on, right? Delia did not make it in, right? Okay. So Councilwoman Davidson.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the presentation. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So a few questions, and as Councilman Fotopoulos said, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to speak again with more concerns and questions at a later date. But to start, I was curious, how many boat slips are you considering?
Right now, we believe there's 83. We would like to increase that by, upwards of 10 more. But we'd have to do that in consultant with, I'd be lying to you, Laurie, if I told you I'm a naval expert in anything like this, but not too many more. In fact, we can leave it as it is if it's a concern with the town.
And the boat storage, again, did you say that was going to be in that green corridor, if you will, parallel to Broadway?
No, we said that's going to be off-site. That's no longer going to be a boat storage yard.
Okay, so the boat storage is for, if those 83 boats remain, will not be there. They'll be trailered off the property someplace else, I assume.
Exactly right, yeah.
Is that someplace else in Keyport?
We would hope so. We've got other plans that obviously I can't talk in great detail because I can only talk about what I own. But we would we would like to think so. Yes, that's in our plans.
Okay, and the public would have access to that marina, or is that strictly just for the tenants? I apologize.
Oh, no,
that's already been at.
Absolutely, yeah, no, it's a public marina, will remain so, and that's a public walkway. So the public have complete access at all times down to that marina, 24 hours a day.
Okay. How many acres is the entire lot?
Conrad, I think it's about 4. Is that correct, Conrad?
I'm sorry, Michael?
The acreage is approximately 4 acres. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
I can answer the question. It's Tom Galanti. It is 4 acres,
Yes.
just under 4 acres.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
And at the risk of everybody kind of chuckling at me, have single homes, were they even thought of, single family homes been thought of as its own community there with the pool, the clubhouse, the marina? Was that ever considered?
It would be, from a cost perspective, it's just not feasible, Laurie. I don't think, I certainly wouldn't be me doing it, I can assure you. So the answer is no, it wouldn't be cost effective.
Okay. I do have concerns about the height of the building, especially from the Broadway side. The residents that live there turning back and looking, I'm sure you're going to make it look as beautiful as possible, but at the end of the day, it's still a very tall wall that will be against their backyard. And while it might be an improvement to what's there now, excuse me, I do have some concerns with that. So I'd be interested to hear what the residents have to say and how they feel about it.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
If I may, we would plan, and I think Conrad touched on it, and of course, Conrad requires us to put in there. We would plan that would be effectively, ultimately, a green wall, and we would make it so. We want to make this whole property, and certainly the whole surrounding area, including Broadway, as beautiful as is possible. We'd like to make it from that point all the way up to the center of town, to be as beautiful as possible. I think already it's a great village, but we would want to make improvements as we become members of your community.
And then while I do appreciate you said that you tried to preserve the history of our town within the architecture of the building. As some of you know from planning board, I'm very much one that loves to continue to see our new structures coming in that maintain some sort of historical value, some sort of piece of architecture that resembles Keyport and a lot of the buildings that still exist. And while it is a lovely structure, I personally would like to see a little bit more historical architecture in there. I don't know if that's feasible with how modern the building looks. So those are just my thoughts for now. And I look forward to asking and hearing more questions and answers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman McNamara.
Being somebody who lives somewhat close to this, there are a couple of things that come up for me. A lot of those I'm not going to address right now, but I'm curious. You did say your intention was to go with condos versus apartments, and I certainly always like owner. I think that's a nice way to go. Do you have any type of price points for what the condos would even go for? I mean, I'm sure, as you've looked at your costs, you've come up with something, and I'm just curious what that looks like, if you have any numbers.
Yeah, so if I may step in, Conrad, Tom. So, Ms. McNamara, so in discussions with our brokers, and as I say, the current market is, I think, scary if I don't understand it, but we're thinking somewhere between $500 per square foot in each unit to $550, possibly $600, depending on which part of the building it resides.
Okay. I think early in the presentation, there was some mention of multi-use and things like that. I'm just curious, are there, I know there's amenities and there's the marina. Are there any other things that you foresee in this property, shops, restaurants, things like that?
No, no more retail, no.
Okay.
No. We believe our adjacency to the village, is sufficient enough. I don't think that us adding anything on a retail basis there adds anything to the ambience of the village.
Okay, and then again, to just confirm, for the marina portion, you're not providing any storage, and I'm assuming anybody who comes to use a boat they already have a slip there, so they're not pulling in with a trailer. I mean, there might be seasonally times when people are getting boats in and out of the water, but other than that, your parking is not going to have trailers.
Exactly right.
There's no day use per se, right?
No, they will not be allowed to park their trailers on our property while they have their boat in the water.
Okay. And okay, I guess my only other thing is if I lived at that end of Broadway and all of a sudden there was somebody 95 feet up looking into my yard, I don't know. I understand like prettying up the parking part, but I guess that's just a thing that people have to figure out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about the automated parking, Conrad.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, I think that's something that's common in larger cities. But what is the space height limit for the vehicles? What if someone has a work van that they come home with? What type of vehicles can this automatic parking fit?
So automated parking is used in cities, but we use it more in suburban settings than urban. And the reason is we do try to use this as a tool to bring down the mass and scale of a structure. And we think we've successfully done that here, of course. You've heard me say that. There is no limitation. You can fit a Suburban, you can fit a pickup truck. Every car from sedan to sports car to pickup truck to van would fit in this structure. If somebody has a vehicle, they enter the loading bay. The loading bay has 11-foot ceilings. The car, truck, van is taken within the building and parked robotically. In other words, there are mechanics that are moved. The technology sounds complicated. It's actually quite simple. The controls and the systems that are used are the same you would find in any elevator component. And it's technology that's used in almost every major warehouse and manufacturing operation in the world. When Amazon is moving a pallet of guitars in boxes through their facility, they're using a small robot that picks up the pallet and moves it to a specific location. The same thing occurs here. There's also redundancy in the system. So the system, if something were to malfunction within the system continues to operate. Again, the idea of elevators, if you have a building, an office building, for example, a residential with 5 elevators, and one goes down, the building isn't out of business. All the other elevators pick up the load until a repair is made. Also, a question that we always get is time. How long does it take to get your car? And it actually takes less time to get your car by using a phone-based app than it would to go into a parking garage, walk to an elevator, up an elevator, across a parking garage, get in your car, drive down ramps and exit the facility. So typically, on average, you get your car in about 3 to 4 minutes. So in 3 to 4 minutes of asking for your car to be delivered, it's delivered down to a loading zone. It's pointed out because it's rotated 180 degrees, and you're off the property. That might have been
Thank
more
you.
information, Mayor, than you asked for, but these questions do come up. I thought I might just answer them all in one short narrative.
Great, thank you. Okay, can I please have a motion to open to the public, and then I'll explain how we'll do this.
Motion.
Second, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone from the public that's going to wish to speak, please make sure when you're called on, you state your name and address for the record. As I said earlier in the meeting, it'll be capped at 3 minutes per person. If we have leftover time at the end and someone else has additional questions, we can call on you.
Mayor, if I may, we
So-
also have Christine Cafone to provide some testimony, so I don't know if you want her to testify first.
Oh, I didn't realize that. A motion to close to the public.
I apologize.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize there was more.
Thank you, Mayor. Christine, are you there?
I am. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good
Sorry
evening.
about that.
No worries. So good evening. For the record, Christine Cafone. I have appeared in Keyport previously. I had the pleasure of working on the Manchester Avenue redevelopment project, as well as a number of other things through the years in the borough. So I'm excited to be here tonight. I think this project is something that's really exciting. I know that we are eager to hear from the residents, and I appreciate the council's time tonight, so I don't want to take a whole lot of time. I just wanted to highlight a few really high-level planning concepts as to why we think this is going to be a really cool and fabulous and exciting catalyst project for the downtown in this area of the borough. And of course, know that we are sensitive to all aspects of making that happen, including considering our single-family residential neighbors to the project. So that has been a constant focus of our team, knowing that it would be a constant focus of the governing body, and really trying to get this project, from paper to a real live project. So I guess to start with, one of the things we looked at was the master plan in the borough of Keyport. The site is currently zoned GC, which doesn't allow for the multifamily residential uses. But interestingly, in the 2017 master plan, when you talked about the area, the land use plan subcommittee actually recommended the expansion of the GMC, General Marino Commercial District, to include all waterfront lands from its current western terminus at Route 35 up to Peterson's Marina. And then it indicated that that it would want to evaluate the feasibility of implementing an overlay district that would allow for residential uses in portions of the GMC district. So, as planners, one of the things we always like to see is, why do you want residential uses? And I would have to say why your land use plan element recommended this. And I think Councilman Fotopoulos touched on this earlier when he said, you could be sending up to, 100 people. I actually think it would be more than that to have a synergistic and positive impact on those shops in the downtown. So there's just a couple of lines that I wanted to read out of a Smart Growth America Reinvigorating Your Downtown manual that was done a few years ago. And strategy 2 was talked about building new homes downtown. And in that manual, there is a statement that reads, workers provide the pulse of downtown between 9 and 5. Creating the option for people to live downtown as well means people will be there around the clock to keep the place hopping. And market demand is so high for homes in walkable neighborhoods that not creating them is a missed opportunity. So I think that when you look at that and you look at the fact that the borough contemplated having residential uses here, and further that the borough's housing plan talks about having a mixed variety of housing options, I think that certainly from a planning point of view, to me, it's an easy lift to conclude that a critical mass of density and residential intensity here is certainly aligned with not just smart growth planning initiatives, but many of the initiatives in your master plan as far as creating housing opportunities and a diversity of housing. And I have been in the borough, frequently. I came out today. I drove around the site, and I think, it was a gorgeous day to be out there driving around the marina. I love the fact that this creates an activated public space where the public still has access to the marina. I think Mr. Oncati said we had 83 around boat slips that it was. So that's awesome that we still keep this public amenity, because again, the purpose and intent of this marine commercial district is to provide for development of a marine-based economy. That's another one of the things that come out of the borough. So like we're so often charged to do as planners, whether you're the governing body voting on zoning ordinances, or the planning board, or us as planners trying to come to you with a plan, we're always trying to balance these issues of creating vibrancy in our downtown. One time I was at a panel at the League of Municipalities on ways to reinvigorate your downtown. And Steve Santolo, who was on one of the panels, he was one of the developers, if you're familiar, in the project above West Elm and Red Bank. One of the things that he said that has always stuck with me over the years, that residential density is a gift that you can give your downtown because it creates a critical mass of intensity for spending power and activity there. So I think that this is a great site that's on the water, unique, walkable to the downtown. You know, certainly we are not insensitive and would never want to be insensitive to our residential neighborhood, our residential neighbors, particularly, you know, our single family homes. You know, Mr. Tennyson and Mr. Roncati are committed to a design that contemplates being sensitive to those neighborhoods, and we're confident that we can get there and work with you. You know, we spoke earlier about the setbacks that we've put on this property to try to create some breathing room for those residences. And I think it's a project that I'm really excited about. I think the thought process that Mr. Roncati put into this is really exciting. It's a state-of-the-art amenity package that we would have for these residences is just unbelievable, while still being able to create a site that's open to the public to have public access to the waterfront. So these are not easy things to do and all while parking it. You know, I should talk about that, is one of the things that we talked about, having experience in the borough, understanding we are going to need to meet our entire, you know, RSIS parking demand on site here and still be able to park the marina. So, you know, I should talk about that has been a significant focus of our team. We've had a lot of team meetings going into this, you know, to bring this to you tonight. And that was definitely something that got a lot of attention on our end as well, is because we wanted to make sure that we had parking. So I think for a lot of reasons, I think that this site is certainly worthy of redevelopment. I think we would have absolutely no problem qualifying for an area of need in redevelopment under the local redevelopment and housing law criteria. I certainly think at a minimum, at least in my opinion, I could solidly apply at least 2, if not more, of those criteria to designate this as an area in redevelopment if the borough were so inclined to go that way. I know that that's not really why we're here tonight. This is more of a high-level presentation to tell you as a team, you know, what we have considered in bringing this project to you here tonight and why we think it makes sense. I think smart growth, this is a great example. This is, in my opinion, would be an award-winning project for smart growth. And I think, you know, the downtown was busy today. It was nice to see. It was fairly busy, but let's face it, residential density, as was said on that panel I was at years ago at the League of Municipalities, is really a gift that we can give our downtowns. So I can unequivocally tell you that I am excited to be part of this project. I'm excited to be on the project team. I think it's something that we have a strong commitment from ownership and from, you know, the design professionals to ensure that this is a project that, you know, meets all the borough's needs and is something that, you know, as a community and a design team that we can be proud of. So I am, again, like I said, excited to be here. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I know that you are eager to get to the questions from the public. So with that, I'll end my presentation, of course, maintaining availability if the public has any questions, and, you know, happy to sit here. As you know from Manchester, I do a really good job of taking down those notes and the things that the public has to say. So I'm excited to be here tonight to listen, take notes, and make sure that we respond as a team to their concerns.
Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Were there any other presenters?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, I just have one question. It's Tom Galante. Not
Mr.
question.
Galante.
How are you? I just want to clarify. There is 89 boat slips, not 83.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And would you, I know this is maybe early to have these conversations, but maybe a few of them could be considered dock and dine, so people could come and just not necessarily rent it for the whole season, but come in and have dinner in town and then go back out. You don't have to answer that right now, but if you can maybe take that into consideration.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any governing body have any questions of Christine, or if not, we'll go ahead and open it to the public now.
Mayor, I don't have a question, but can Tom identify himself for the people who don't know that he owns the marina portion,
Sorry.
just for the public's edification.
Sure. Thomas Galanti, and I am one of the owners of Harbor View Marina.
And you run the marina presently now,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes, I do. I've been running it for the last almost 2 years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any governing bodies have questions, members have questions of Christie?
Mayor, it might not necessarily be a question for Ms. Capone, but back to the density and back to the height. Is there? All right, no, I'm gonna hold off on that, but I'm wondering why we wouldn't be able to add height to the lower building and take height off of the higher building. I guess maybe the architect can speak to that.
Sure. So it's Conrad Roncati. As I explained, our approach was to work with the grade of the property. Yes, our lower wing is on the east side, which does start at a lower elevation. However, we're also trying to create a building that is not massive in volume and monolithic quality. So we were not trying to create a building that was the same height all across or two-step levels. That's why we took the extra steps to design this building with the 3 separate and distinct blocks, all in different directions, all in different heights, and with complementary and similar exterior materials, but handled in a different manner. If we were to take height off the west wing and add it to the east wing, I think we'd start looking at a building that actually appears much larger than it really is. And I think by aggregating the height the way we have, we've created a building which is a little bit more sculptural, a little bit more sensitive in its massing, and actually appears lower and less impactful. I've been hearing the comments from you and other council members. We're certainly sensitive to this. As our planner said, we're certainly interested in making a project that is both accepted by the community as well as our future residents. And I would like to say 2 additional things. One, the parking structure is visible on both sides. It not only presents itself to the west, to the properties along Broadway, it also presents itself internally. And if I wasn't able to make that block, that mass, and that wall palatable on the inside of the project, I certainly wouldn't have attempted to put this structure together the way I did. This parking block, again, is 1/3 the size of what it would be as a conventional garage. It would consume the entire site. And I think its impact is much less than it would be with conventional parking. I'm planning at least 9 of these garages right now in the state of New Jersey alone, containing over 3,000 parking spaces. I did the very first one in this country in Hoboken 18 years ago. So I'm really somebody very, very familiar with the benefits of this system. I did a condo building in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, a couple of years ago. There's a parking garage of similar size. Underneath the building tower, it rises to 14 stories, that building. But I can tell you, and I'd be happy to share photos in the future, when people drive to the project, they have absolutely no idea that there's a parking garage at the base of the building, and they have no perception that it's a tall wall, and yet it's the same height of what I'm proposing here. Also, this is one view of the building. We'll be doing 3D model studies, and we'll be presenting that as necessary to your boards and your community. And I feel very confident that you'll see, along with everyone else, that the massing of this building is successful. And once we can show that using Google Earth in 3D form and massing, I think the separation of this building from the buildings along Broadway will be more evident than this view, which isn't quite beneficial to that goal.
I appreciate all of that. One other comment, though, I just wanted to echo Councilwoman Davidson's concern as well with adhering to the aesthetic. You're putting this in, I mean, all of Keyport is historic. You're putting this into a particularly historic area with a certain type of architecture. I know, you're obviously a very, very talented architect. It will be a challenge to honor that aesthetic that we like in town, but I'm hoping that you will, and that's really all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other governing body members before we open it to the public? A motion to open the public.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
First, if I can ask for screen sharing to be turned off so that I can actually see when people are raising their hands, because I'm going to need to turn it on to grid view. Thank you so much. Okay, so how we're going to do this first is if you live on West Front Street between the Marina and Broadway, if you want to raise your hand. Next, we're going to turn on to Broadway from West Front down to the water. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Mr. Dickerson? Just a reminder to everyone that we're doing a 3-minute limit first, and then we'll open it back up if we have more time at the end.
Very good. Tim and Bill Dickerson, we're at 7 Broadway, next door to the Marina property. I just want to say, first off, I really appreciate the job that our town council does in thinking things through and the questions that you've asked. Really, a lot of things have already been covered, and Cheryl and I just have a couple of questions regarding this. I noticed that it looks like the gas dock is going away, so there'll be no more gas dock at the marina. Is that accurate?
No, that's not. This is Tom Galante. It still will be there.
Still be there. Okay.
Yes.
The other thing I was concerned about, I mean, 85 feet sounds high, but I don't have really anything to compare that to. And what I think about with 85 feet is not only the visibility people have looking down, but also the lighting that's going to be around that structure. Is it going to, is it hooded, or how's it going to be so that, we're just not lit up all the time? Because I know a complex like that's going to require security lighting. So that's a concern.
Mayor, would you like me to address that, or?
If you could, please, that would be great, Conrad.
One of the benefits of the project is that it is internalized. So where the majority of light would need to be, road access, driveway, entry, lobby, is all internalized inside the U shape. So the need for light beyond the perimeter of the building is limited to the parking lot, which is down at the marina, lighting that already exists, and then some low-level lighting around the south and west side. But those would be low level. That would be lighting that's controlled, and certainly not spilling into adjacent properties. And also on the west side of the building, because the residential floors are at the top of the structure, any light emanating from units will be above the residential and commercial buildings on Broadway.
Very good.
Yeah, I will comment. I think the plans look very interesting, and I wanted to know whether they are going to be made available to download and look at them a little bit more closely somewhere. Is that possible?
Yes.
I would certainly make it available, but that's not my call.
Okay.
Yes. After this evening's presentation, tomorrow, by tomorrow afternoon, they'll be posted on the borough website.
Okay. The other two more questions I had are comments. One was, will there be new sidewalks along the road front as well? That'll all be freshly done. And then also the other comment is the drive area that, well, or the easement that you talked about, properties off Broadway, those actually end up acting as our driveway. We didn't build it that way, but that is reality for us right now. So I guess that does cause me a little bit of concern, you know, as that goes away, how we would be addressing that. So I guess I don't know that you need to have an answer, but it's more, I guess we would need notice or need to understand how we'd be planning to address it.
So I would love to answer your question, and I'm sure we could figure out whatever logistic issue there is.
Yeah.
But you're saying that your property is accessed from the marina property to your driveway? Or did I misunderstand?
That roadway, the little strip of land that's been greened out, has been used as a driveway not only for our property, but also the one on the other side, on the the west side, I guess, to that, or southwest side of that.
I understand. So I can absolutely speak on behalf of the developer here. I'm sure with confidence. If you had access to your property through that strip, that would certainly be maintained moving forward. Nobody's looking to cut off your access. I was focused at the gate at the end of that when I was there last, but certainly none of this would impact the access to your property. And I'm sure the developer would be happy to work out whatever formal necessary easements are necessary. Michael Tennyson is.
Yeah, so Cheryl and Tim, our intention there was nothing got to do with your day-to-day comfort. We're here to make sure that is changes. We are just saying if the fire department needs that as an opening, it would be so used. But in real terms, as we move along, yourself and whoever else is on the other side of that easement actually almost have an extended garden because it's not a driveway we'll be using. Right. So, and we will absolutely pave it in such a way with some greenery, and we will dress up the backs of your own properties with your, of course, input. But yeah, we effectively only see that as if the fire department or the police department require it left open. But on a day-to-day basis, you're welcome to use it as you wish.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I will say that I was interested to see that I think the plans look like they certainly are done with quality. And I would be interested in seeing or driving by the condo complex you mentioned in Cliffside Park if you're willing to give up that address at some point. And I think that's it for us for now. Thank you.
And if I may jump in there, the Cliffside Park project is spectacular. I was involved myself in an early stage. If you wish to go to Long Branch, we're the main developer in Long Branch on the waterfront, and there's some spectacular buildings there that we can show you the development and the quality of our developments that we are very proud of, should you wish to come on a tour with us.
Great. Well, we're actually going to be in Cliffside Park tomorrow and Long Branch this weekend. So if you have the addresses, send them along. Thanks.
Okay, well, we'll take you through whatever. If you see the Lops, which is most recently completed, we developed that. That was us.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I want the architect to just explain, just to clarify something with regard to the 85 feet. That's not from what is that 85 feet is not 85 feet from like the road height. That includes something below what I would consider below grade. Correct?
Yes,
just so we understand that.
Yes, thank you. I had corrected myself earlier, but maybe I wasn't clear. We're actually looking at 75 feet because, or 73 feet possibly, because the dimension on my drawing is an absolute height from a below grade basement level to the roof. So the actual exposed height on that side maximum is 75, not 85.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so next, we're continuing on Broadway, only from West Front Street to the water. I think, Mr. Vecchio, you had your hand up.
Yes, Nicholas Vecchio, 36 Broadway. The only comment I had regarding this whole project is the height of 75 feet now seems a little overbearing for the neighborhood. And I just don't know, like, I mean, I just don't know how it's going to fit. I mean, most of the houses in the neighborhood were built between 1830 and 1870 as single family homes. And now we're going to have this pretty substantial building overlooking all of our houses. So, I mean, hopefully it's something that gets taken into consideration. I mean, and as far as the parking garage, it's still a podium with apartments above it. I mean, it's a concrete block that looks like it's almost 40 feet tall of concrete going around this whole building. So I would like to see some different architectural renderings from different points that'll actually show it, how it'll be softened up with trees and such. So that's about all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Vecchio. We will take, of course, those considerations. You know, we are aware of the single family homes. We're also aware of the 10-story Oyster Bay apartment complex. So, you know, we are trying to come up with a program and something that does fit into, you know, the character of this area, taking advantage of the waterfront, but also being sensitive to those single family homes that are adjoining us. So, but, you know, there's
a 10-story building in the neighborhood, you said?
The Oyster Bay, you can see it from the subject property.
Deer Street. Just
Oh,
come
that's
up into
not,
Deer
that's not
Street.
even close. Okay.
Well, you can see it from the site, so it has to be fairly close because I was out there today. So, but thank you for letting us know that your thoughts, and we'll certainly consider those.
Okay, so we're on Broadway from West Front to the water. Are there any residents? Mr. Griffin?
Yeah, my name's Sandy Griffin, 16 Broadway. I'm also a little concerned about the height of this. And I'm wondering in your next round of renderings, if maybe you could provide like views from Broadway to see, maybe show what we'll be seeing from our house's perspective.
Is that possible, Conrad?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, it's the architect again. We'll certainly be doing three-dimensional massing studies. We'll actually import our drawings accurately into Google Earth, and then we can actually use that model to pick any spot in the neighborhood, close or far, and show what the mass of the building will be and how it neatly fits into this site and the neighborhood. We will definitely be getting to those exhibits, hopefully as we make our case for a final approval.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Griffin? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure that earlier when I was saying the homes that are between Smith and the Peterson's Marina, I'm not sure if the residents were on and heard me call on them if they wanted to speak or raise their hands. So this would be the two homes that would be next to Smith. Okay. Next, we'll go to, hold on 1 second. We will go up further Broadway to West 2nd. Okay. Next, we will go to anyone across the street on West Front Street? Or across the street directly from the
Excuse me,
property?
Mayor. I'm on Broadway.
Where are you
This
on
is Mary
Broadway?
Papamaru, 113 Broadway. My family and I have lived on
Is this
Broadway
from
for
West
61
Second
years.
to the water? Will you be
No, the other,
closer than West Second?
yes, 113.
Right, but where? I don't have
West
the house number
Second
in front of me.
is, so we are in the block. So no, we're in the block between first and second. Oh gosh, now I don't have my map.
That's okay. So you're closer. You're within 2 blocks of the project? We're doing two
Yes,
blocks within
we are
the
within
project,
two
so if
blocks.
you are, then you can
We-
speak.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. And we have two owner occupied homes. My sister and I, my family has been since 1961. And with all
I'm sorry,
respect
can you
to
back up?
others,
Hold on 1 second. Can you state your name and
I'm
address so the clerk can have that first?
okay. Mary Papa Marku, 113 Broadway.
Great. Okay, go ahead. Wait, where'd you go?
With all due respect to those who've presented, I do not believe, given the height and scope of the project, that it represents the charming nature of our town. But that's for another day. A lot of people have concerns about the height. I'm in favor of Councilwoman Davidson's recommendations that single family maintain the of our plus-year-old homes and our concerned. Right-hand turn, the first right.
Mary, are you calling in on the
Sends
phone or are you only in on the
everyone-
computer?
West front. I'm on computer.
Okay, we're hearing about
Can
every
you hear
fourth word
me?
that you're saying.
I'm saying that my concern is about being the right-hand traffic coming out of the parking, the egress makes a mandatory right-hand turn onto West Front, which sends all the traffic towards Broadway and West Front Street continuing on into Cliffwood. You're going to increase the traffic coming into our neighborhood substantially. There's already too much traffic going at a high rate of speed. Have traffic studies been done that might represent what we might expect as residents of those first two blocks of Broadway?
Our
The
professionals have
second
not seen
thing,
this plan yet, so we have not turned anything over to any type of professional.
the second
traffic
concern I
studies yet.
have, okay, great. The second concern I have is that there are projects going on in other Bay Shore communities, for instance, Hazlet and Keensburg, that have hundreds of open occupancies. They're not being sold. So what is the guarantee that 184 units be sold? What data that's given the rates right now going on in the community that would get the amount of money that you're asking for to ensure us owner occupied units?
So to answer your first point, our team has retained a civil and traffic engineer who will be working on plans and a traffic study, and hopefully at the next meeting or some meetings in the future, we will have that to present, but we do not have traffic studies to present at this point.
Also, if I may add, Mr. Alfieri, this is the architect, just to assuage her concerns. I don't know if she can even hear me, but there are two ingress-egress points. The one farthest east is ingress and egress. The one shown on the plan on the western driveway is right turn only. That does not mean that all traffic turns right out of the property. The primary ingress-egress point allows unrestricted turns left and right. It's located farther east where it's off the curve and flat. We provided a second alternate egress point that would be used by residents that's right turn only. But there's nothing in this plan that forces all the traffic to turn right out of the property and head westbound. There's free-flowing traffic in all directions.
Forward to seeing the traffic studies, as no one can cross this day on West Front Street on a Friday afternoon with the fishery. So I look forward to seeing your studies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I was along with Mary on that one. I thought earlier it had meant that you can only make a right-hand turn, but I see what you're saying now, that the easterly driveway will be exit either way.
Yes, Mayor.
Got it. Okay, if you are within 2 blocks of this project, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Okay, next we will go to Mr. DeGracia. Mr. DeGracia, will you have a question?
Yes. Albert DeGracia. I live on 23 West First Street. I'm directly behind the current project that's going on in town. Excuse me a second. I'm having issues with my computer and my iPad at the same time. Mine is more of a comment for mayor and council. I'm just concerned about the example that we're setting here. I mean, you know, it all started back in the 70s, I guess, with the Beer Street, you know, where the senior citizens currently live. And my mother used to live there, so on the 9th floor, as a matter of fact. You know, we have that other project that's going on down the block. That was a big concern with parking and the height and all the same issues that we're hearing here. Someone even told me that the post office might close and that might be developed. I don't know if that's true or not. And like I said, I live directly behind the current project that's going on. And as I see them dumping more and more dirt on there, I'm concerned that they may turn around now and say, hey, look, I need to put up a huge structure here as well. You know, currently, I believe they're allowed 26 or 29 townhouses. You know, what's to stop them or anybody else from coming now and really demanding this type of structure other places in town? You know, and again, it was just a comment. I'm just a little concerned that we're setting the kind of example we're setting here. That's all. Thank you.
Completely understood, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have this community meeting, so we can hear that feedback. So thank you. Anyone else within 2 block radius, if you could show your hand, please, if you want to speak. If you're on the phone lines and you're within 2 blocks of the project, please unmute yourself by pushing *6. Okay, next we'll open it to the general public. We'll be doing video show of hands first. Reminder, it's 3 minutes per person. Caitlin?
Hi, how you doing? My name's Bill Grio. I live at 179 First Street. Thank you to the gentleman for that presentation. It was very nice. I do have a question about, so there's been a gas dock at this location for some time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any, has soil samples been taken or has the groundwater been checked? Is there any contamination on this site? And is there any remediation that's going to be done?
I can answer that. Yes, there has been tests done, and we have our LSRP giving us a report on that, and obviously any and all site conditions that are negative will be addressed and fixed before we start any construction.
Are those results going to be made public? Will we be able to see those?
Sure, yeah, there's no reason for us not to make them public.
All right, thank you. My next question is what kind of impact is this going to have on like the school in Keyport, right? So I'm assuming that each resident in this place isn't going to be paying the same amount in taxes as anybody who owns a single family home here. Is this going to put a larger burden on the people who own single family homes in town?
Well, it's the architect. I would point out that typically, if you're asking about school age impact, It's normally a very small number one, in multifamily buildings. If necessary, our planner could probably add some statistics there, but I would just like to point out, perhaps you didn't hear the initial part of the presentation, but 85% of the units in this building are one bedrooms. And typically one bedrooms have one person or a couple, and you are going to find that there are very few school-age children generated, if at all, from a project like this. So in terms of impact, the impact to the school is very positive because tax money is being paid and no costs are being derived or measurable costs from a project like this.
This is Christine Caffone, the planner as well. I would agree with exactly what Mr. Roncati said. There are demographic multipliers that the Rutgers Center for Government Services puts out for these type of projects. And I think most importantly, 85% of the project is going to be a one-bedroom type project. So with that being said, that leaves a very small percentage of 2 bedrooms. So will there be school-age children associated with that? Potentially, but it will be a very, very small number and certainly substantiated by the substantial tax revenues that would be generated in conjunction with this project. So I don't think we can tell you categorically that there will never absolutely be any children here, but I think that there will be a very small percentage of children here, given the program that we are proposing, and the multipliers for 2-bedroom units of this type are very, very insignificant in relation to what the project will generate as far as revenues.
But a good question nonetheless.
We knew it would come up, so we were certainly anticipating.
I'd just like to also jump in and point out that if these units are selling for $500,000 to $550,000, they're paying taxes on $500,000 to $550,000 worth of value. So if your house is worth less than $500,000, they'd be paying more taxes than we would.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, let's continuing by show of hands. Mr. Graham.
Yes, Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. I think this is a good project going forward. And this can only help Keyport and everything like that. And I'd say recommend and I'd say go ahead with it and stuff like that. While at the same time, put a check on possible overdevelopment in our borough and everything like that. But I think it's a good project. I'd say recommend and go forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Anyone else by show of hands? Mr. Johnston?
Yeah, I think it's a great plan as well, and beautiful building. I've kept my boat at Peterson's for the past 20 years, so I'll miss having my boat stored locally. So I was glad to hear about some possible development of other sites for boat storage. I saw where you had the line for the floodplain, but I've also seen where the water came to with Sandy, and my concern is, what's going to happen with the next Sandy that comes in here, and what are your thoughts about that?
So the quick answer is the building footprint is out of the floodplain line, but the first floor residential is an additional 10 feet above that. So I've seen the flood line from Sandy on the existing building there. I know it flooded that metal building out. You can see that line, and we'll be well above that, even that storm surge. So this building will comply and exceed all of those flood requirements.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Kelsey?
It's based on the residential site improvement standards, which would be their statewide standards, and they set forth parking development standards based on data and demand. So, and they're not just unique to Keyport, they're for different projects, all throughout the state, and they apply different parking ratios and different standards for single family homes, for multifamily projects. So we use that as a guide. No, I think that the parking program that we have is reasonably related to the demands for the marina as well as the residents on site. It's not in our best interest to build structured parking that we don't need. That is not an inexpensive type of parking to build. So we certainly want to make sure that the scale and the need of the parking is appropriate to the demand that we're going to have here, because it's not just a massive surface level parking lot that is just some asphalt being laid down. So we as a team have to be of course considering the costs associated and making sure that the demands are satisfied but not over or under satisfied.
So I could answer that question. If we find that the residential use is not utilizing the entire building, it's entirely possible that the marina users could be assigned parking spaces in the building. The intake of the vehicle does not require you to enter any of the public spaces of the building. So if you have nothing to do with the residential building, you don't have to go through the residential building to access or remove a car. And we have spoken with the developer that we could even provide parking for marina users. If somebody's going out on their boat for a night or 2 days, for example, we could certainly accommodate them in this parking structure. The parking system is agnostic. It doesn't care whether you're a resident or a marina owner. You would just need to be provided with access by code, key fob, or phone app. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wall?
Hi, this is Jeannie Wall, publisher of Tap Into Keyport. I just have a few questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are there any of the units that come with riparian rights, like deeded into them? Do you want me to go over my questions first or one at a time?
If you can go over,
I think
if
one at a
there's,
time,
obviously, I'm sure you've heard that it's a 3-minute limit, so.
Okay, so real quick, so there's the riparian rights question, or any of them come with riparian rights deeded. I know you said that it's $500 to $600 a square foot. How many square feet are, is the smallest unit? How many square feet is the largest unit? And how does that translate into dollars? And then you had mentioned perhaps there's examples of recreation for the top of the buildings, and correct me if I'm wrong. And if so, what type of recreation, and will that be open to any of the public? And let me see, are there any ferry partnerships in mind? Will there be any, smaller ferry boats traveling to the other ferry? Also, to what extent is there a set aside for low to moderate income? Because these are not, obviously the prices that we're talking about here are not low to moderate income.
So it's the architect, again, a couple of answers. Units range from 712 square feet, more or less, to just over 1,100 square feet. So the math is easy to do. I don't believe any units come with riparian rights. Perhaps council would contradict if I'm not correct. They would be regular condominium units. I did present that there would be some active roofscapes. In the rendering and on the plans, we show that on the lower roof, there was a gym and a community room that would then open out to what I would describe as active roof space, rooftop garden. There's no pool on the roof. It's not tennis courts on the roof. It's really passive activity. You had a question about affordable units. I'm not sure that's within my purview. Or ferry service. I don't know anything about discussions with ferry operators, whether that is being discussed or not.
Okay, and who can answer the set aside for low to moderate income?
Hi, this is Christine. I can answer that. So at this time, we're not proposing an inclusionary project on site. So it is just a market rate project. And I am similarly unaware of any ferry partnerships.
Okay, so you're not doing the 15% low to moderate.
It is not an inclusionary project. It's our understanding that the borough has met their obligation elsewhere, and this will not, as of right now, it is not proposed to do an inclusionary project.
Okay, and I forgot to ask, what's the official name of the development, like the homes? What are they going to be called?
There isn't an official name.
Yeah, I don't know we have one yet.
Not yet, okay.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else by show of hands? Next, we'll go to the phone line. If you're on a phone line and you wish to speak, please hit *6.
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Hi, Mr. Lane.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My comment is I'm real concerned about the fit and harmony of this project, especially when you look at the density of 45 units per acre, where the highest density allowed on the north side of the highway is RC 20 units per acre. The building height allowed in the GC Marina area is 35 feet. We're talking, and so people who bought their homes and live next to this area for years and years weren't going to be challenged by buildings over 35 feet. Now you're talking about buildings that are, from the ground up 95 feet from the road level, which is be really interesting to see that table or that document, 75 feet. That's more than any building in Keyport except for the American Legion building right now. And a lot of people don't think that was a good idea. The utilities, we're going to increase the demand on the water and sewer system and the Browns Point Marina or Browns Point area by adding an additional 304 units. Are we going to have enough water and sewer capacity? And do we know where we're going to get it from? And we're going to have enough water capacity to handle a fire and the sprinkler system? Issues with visitor parking. You're going to have 183 units. And for the holidays, where are all the visitors going to park? And where is that analysis? The automated parking garage. We had an outage for more than a week after Sandy. So what, is there going to be emergency generators in this system to deal with that?
Yes, just like an elevator in a building. There are emergency backup. It's a low electric demand. It's run off battery backup and then a generator.
I think that's absolutely essential. The driveway entrance, is it going to be across the street from the Raritan Cove driveway? How is that going to be managed?
We will check that alignment and we'll certainly have a full traffic impact study. All of these comments are great. And of course, I'm not looking to not hear any of them, but I just want everyone to know we're very early. This is a project that's conceptual. We're encouraging people's comments so we can certainly prepare ourselves and answer all of these questions. But I just want everyone to know, just as the architect, we're not presenting things because we haven't thought of them. We are just so early in this process and want to hear everybody's feedback. We will have more drawings, more renderings, more 3D studies. We'll have traffic studies, school impact, tax studies, all of those kinds of things that the town may require, we will be providing. So I didn't want anyone leaving tonight thinking we hadn't done our homework or we're remiss in providing information. We're just so very early on, and all of these things would be addressed in the next phase.
I'll make the statement. There was 100 people that worked on the new master plan and teams that worked for months and months on the land use requirements. And this is no way a fit with any of the work that was done, with any of with the plan that was accepted and endorsed by the council members themselves. This is way, way above anything imagined. And you talk about Long Branch. I go to Long Branch. There's a wall of high rises along the ocean front. And one block on the other side, you wouldn't want to walk at night in the dark because it has really impacted the neighborhoods. And I hope we're not, future vision of Keyport is not a wall of these high rises along the waterfront, separating the rest of the town from its history in the water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the phone lines, press *6. Okay, I'm going to flip through the screens one more time for any, I'm sorry, I see our borough engineer, Mr. Taylor, has his hand up.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Trevor Taylor, CME Associates. I just had a couple comments. Obviously, these aren't really technical plans yet, it's just conceptual, but just want to bring attention to the developer. There is a sanitary sewer line that runs through the existing marina through an easement. So obviously we'll have to deal with that easement once technical plans would be prepared for the application. It looks like there's a boat ramp on the rendering. Is that an existing boat ramp or a proposed boat ramp, or what is the intention for the boat ramp?
It's Conrad. There is a boat ramp currently existing just on the center of the site plan. Perhaps Mr. Galante could answer the question. I'm not sure that we'll be utilizing that boat ramp.
Yes, that's where we have our travel lift, and that's where we put the boats in. It's done on land, and it goes out into the water, and then we lower the boats into the water from there. So that will stay existing along with the beach.
Okay, that's going to be stored on site somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Just another comment about the marina. So based on the size of the marina, I think you indicated 89 slips. According to that would be a large marina. So we do have bathroom requirements for a large marina. I do
There's
see
bathrooms there now existing, and then we will be upgrading them as well.
Okay, and that, I guess that's the orange building towards the north side of the property.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, that orange square in the middle of my site plan will be the new dock master building, and there will be toilet facilities, brand new building, brand new facilities at the center.
Okay. Okay, and just the last thing, it's kind of difficult to see on the plans, but the flood elevation, I know you indicated that it's on the water side of the building. I'll just check the preliminary flood maps and just make sure that that is the most recent flood zones. I know the townhouse development across the street, portion of that site is within a coastal A zone. So you may just want to check the preliminary flood maps and just make sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date flood zone. That was it.
Our first residential floor at the moment is at elevation 15.
15? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay, last show of hands across the screens. Last on the phone line calls. Going once, going twice. Can I please have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I would just like to take a moment to thank everyone, including the public. We kept this, our goal was around 2 hours and we kept it pretty close to that. I appreciate everyone's professional demeanor and dialogue. And I believe between the governing body and the members of the public, the developer has decent and sound feedback. And again, I would just like to thank everyone for respecting this process so that we can include our community in these types of conversations. Do any further governing body members have any questions before we close the meeting? Can I have please have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you for your time tonight, Mayor and Council.